Live everywhere.
Daily Kos Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Waldman, Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you doing? It is Friday, May 12th, 2017. I want to enunciate clearly on every single word because Donald Trump may be recording this show for posterity. Donald Trump this morning on another Twitter rampage. I think we're up to 5 morning tweets. He's still angry at Jim Comey and intimidating him in I guess the best way he knows how this morning, threatening him. I guess some sort of weird veiled threat that there may be tapes, recordings of some kind of his conversation, whatever it was that they spoke about at dinner, because there are competing versions of it now. There's Donald Trump's version of it and everybody else's version of what happened. We've learned this through, the Lester Holt interview revealed a little bit about it. I don't know where else he's spoken about it. Comey associates are disputing his account of it. Trump says that he actually asked for, that is, that Comey asked, could I please come over for dinner to the White House, which doesn't sound really like the FBI director at all. He loves having people to dinner. That's Trump through and through. And it's in dispute who invited who to the White House. Nobody knows what they ate. We should find this out. Was there special sauce, etc.? And more on that, by the way, on a story that I have put aside for today. But they're now disputing the whole contents of the conversation, which I guess isn't surprising. Comey, of course, says, I don't know, I got summoned to the White House and I didn't want to go, but I went and I made some small talk because what am I going to do? I can't talk to this guy about anything. He's under investigation. Trump's version of it is he begged to come to the White House and then he fell on his hands and knees and begged me to keep his job. And I was like, maybe, okay, give me another cookie and another scoop of ice cream and perhaps we'll think about it. But, but in any case, he definitely told me like 500 times that I wasn't under investigation. That's his allegation. And Comey says, no, that wasn't why I was there. I didn't ask to come there. You made me go there, and I didn't talk to you about the investigation. And his associates, we learned yesterday already, were saying it's farcical was the word that they were using to describe the notion that Comey would go to the White House and tell him he wasn't under investigation. In addition, we find that and I guess I'll have to parse through the sources again. And I'm mixing up now which article did I read this in, but a lot of the discussion last night was about Trump's demand, essentially, for a loyalty pledge from Comey, which would be, completely inappropriate for almost anybody in any position in the government to do. A personal loyalty pledge to the president, and Comey obviously said, yeah, we don't do that sort of thing. I guess he had a comeback for him and said, I could pledge you that I'll be honest with you. I pledge you my honesty. And I think Trump settled for, well, how about honest loyalty? And I guess Comey said, I guess I could pledge. Is this you need me to pledge something? Is that do I not get dessert if I don't get a pledge? I don't really understand exactly what's going on here. So this morning, the tweet storm, let's see, it begins where? Are these in order? Greg just sent me a screen cap of all of these, and I can never be, I thought I read them, I definitely read them this morning, and I'm trying to remember what order I found them in, but I guess it doesn't really matter what order they go in. Let's look at this. He's got the fake media is working overtime today, but I feel like there was something else before that one. Let me just open up Twitter so I get it right. See, I don't want to misquote the president. It's extremely important that I get it correct. Anyway, while I'm looking that up, welcome to the show. There's a little bit to discuss today, no doubt about that. Daily Kos Radio is live now, as we're reminded, from Portland, Maine, thanks to Bill each morning for those tweets. For the sake of efficiency, Kagro X, that's me, David Waldman, is going back to steam-powered broadcasting. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to discuss that one yesterday. Yesterday was another day of release of bizarro interviews that the president had granted. He's in the habit now of doing these Oval Office interviews, and I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's like every day he just climbs back down into the hole and says, 1, hand me my shovel, and 2, I want the rest of this hole covered in rakes with the tines up so that when I walk around in here and stretch my legs, because I'm a very active president, I want to be able to smack myself in the face with all these things. Here's what we got for the morning. The first of, I don't know why we, okay. So here's the first of his morning tweets. Again, the story that there was collusion between the Russians and Trump campaign was fabricated by Dems as an excuse for losing the election. Then he begins in on everybody else. The fake media is working overtime today. The Twitter media, I guess, also working overtime. As a very active president, I like that one. It's very important to stay active at your age, Mr. President. As a very active president with lots of things happening, it is not possible for my surrogates to stand at podium with perfect accuracy! Exclamation point, and then I guess like some ellipses, a 4-period ellipses. Which, 4 spaces, by the way, could have been used, I think, to fit the word the podium, the article in front of podium. But, alright, he opted not to do that. That's a style thing. He is a very active president. As I noted this morning, he is, an active president with a Diet Coke button on his desk, but he is an active president nonetheless. I don't know if I have seen that featured in any other way. I imagine it existed before, but he's so proud of himself. Look at this. I have a Diet Coke button. Beep, 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 beep. I want a 6-pack. Beep, 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 beep. How many times did I, make sure. All right. Well, anyway, so active president, lots of things happening. That's an interesting exclamation as well. It's not possible for my surrogates essentially to tell the truth all the time. And I guess there's a sense in which that does make some sense. That's to use the word sense twice in a sentence. Wow. Sometimes they don't have perfect information, or sometimes you say something that it was true, or I didn't know the exact truth, but I tried to get at it. And it's not that I think that all the time I was going to say not that all the time all presidential spokespeople are standing there and lying. This administration, I have my doubts. I think they may all be doing exactly that. But he then continues. The next part of his fit, I guess this is why there was the ellipses. Maybe the best thing to do would be to cancel all future quote unquote press briefings and hand out written responses for the sake of accuracy. And here he uses 3 question marks. That's not an ellipses. That's just a kid texting. Okay. That might not be a bad idea given, who's doing your press briefings. Then he goes on, though, and it turns a little darker. James Comey better hope. Oh, man. That's good language to use. That's going to look great in the impeachment record. James Comey better hope that there are no, quote, tapes. Tapes. Not the... it's in quotes. There are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. And he wasn't done. He's come back about half an hour later to say, when James Clapper himself and virtually everyone else with knowledge of the witch hunt says there is no collusion, when does it end? Of course, Clapper did not say that. But back to the question of whether or not there are tapes of the conversation. That has gotten everyone's attention. And it's also interesting, Maggie Haberman at New York Times noting the interesting use of the quotes here. And by way of trying to figure out what he meant by quoting the word tapes. My guess is that that's actually his takeaway from the Wiretaps with 2 P's episode, that he felt chastened by having accused Obama personally of having ordered wiretaps of Trump Tower, but then he found out that they might not have been wiretaps per se. They might have been some other form of surveillance. And that was his takeaway. Oh, I didn't use the correct terminology. And so tapes enclosed in quotes, because it might turn out when people discover that I have been recording all my meetings and phone calls, but recording them digitally, they're gonna hit Trump again with the accusation that he doesn't know what he's talking about. I know what I'm talking about. They're not tapes. I understand that. That's the digital. It's the digital that we're talking about. And I knew that we were using the digital and not the tapes. The tapes is what I use to hold my tie together, okay? It's not that I don't know that. But I guess he figures he's protecting himself there when in fact he's making a horrible, horrible confession. So I guess we have yet to see whether or not he's recording these things. I don't doubt very much that he is taping these things and that he feels like he's entitled to do that. And I'm not 100% positive he isn't entitled to do that. But, one of the suggestions that I thought was, rather on the nose, that he was probably just listening to the tapes later to hear the sound of his own voice. But, I doubt he's even interested in the conversations he's already had. I'm sure he intends to use it, to prove his version of events. Where I think we're going to get into trouble is that if there's anything I doubt less than that he's recording all those conversations, it's that he hears exactly what he wants to hear in those tapes and nothing else. And he probably I think that's probably be his undoing, is he will end up releasing tapes and saying, this proves my version of the conversation, that Comey is lying. And I'm the one only Trump is giving you the truth. That's why I kept the tapes. That was the point. And it will turn out that God doesn't say anything like what you were saying. And he'll insist that it does. And that's fine. I don't mind having that fight on the record. I can't wait. But, he's not going to go willingly. And he's going to play us tapes that incriminate him, undeniably. And he's going to insist that they exonerate him. And for a while, 40% of the country will also insist that it exonerates him. But the question will be, will 40% of Congress insist on that? And so far, I don't even know that they won't. I can't promise you that they'll come to their senses on this. So I don't know. Man, lots of other things to catch up with. The comment section by itself is going crazy. Sponson says no tapes, no way. Because it strikes me, that's a big problem. I'm going to have to reconcile that. If I'm about to say, well, maybe you're right. That would be difficult to, reconcile. But I guess there's a sense in which I could, or a way I could imagine it. If, I don't know, have we ever discovered, and I guess there's no reason to have discovered them and no one would have had any access to them. But he's either been taping himself his whole life, or he's one of those guys that insists on no tapes, no record of anything ever, because he knows that he'll just get himself in trouble. So I guess I could entertain that theory, but, I don't know. For some reason, I think he may have lapsed over into I'll record everything because I'm always right. Everything I say is perfect and I want to prove it to everybody. And it might have, in his younger years, he might have, counseled himself to avoid being taped, but now I bet he can't help it. Let's see. There's a more clarification here. Sponson continuing on. Just a desperate attempt to change what was being said on TV in real time. Oh, okay. I see. So you just think he's bluffing about the tapes. And he may be bluffing about them. And I guess both things could be true. I did tape the conversation, and I know full well that I'm wrong and he's right. And I have a tape of that. But I am bluffing about there being a tape so that Comey will worry and doubt himself and back off. It's a possibility. Well, anyway, I guess, we may never know, but, I guess that means though that I imagine if he has tapes that he's got somebody else. I'm sure he plays it to somebody and says, what do you think? Are we going to get away with this one? Am I not right? Did I not tell everybody exactly how it happened? And, if people shake their head at him, it's probably, you have to say, you're absolutely right. I hear it. You hear it. The question is, will the lying media hear it? And they won't. They'll hear the exact opposite. So so maybe that's it. I don't know. It's certainly possible. I can't bet a great deal of money, but if I have, give me $5 to bet, I'll bet on tapes. And I think it's a sensible bet though, that he's just talking out his ass right now. That's clearly possible. Bill says, that he thinks that they're 8-track tapes, and that's possible too. Can you record on those things? I don't know if Trump ever went in for the 8-track tape thing though. I'm not certain whether he, was an audiophile at that point in his life. Let's see. Trump plays the tapes to presidential portraits after midnight. That may also be true. Here's another interesting catch. Rebecca Roman's laughing at Media Matters, noting that Mika Brzezinski tells CNN to stop having Kellyanne Conway for politics, porn, and ratings crack. Well, it's good advice. It's just not really the most solid stuff coming from Mika. Michael Musson chiming in, Trump doesn't really get how to use double quotes. Oh, that's true. He also said, quote, innocent too. That may tell us something as well. What else have we here? Oh, look at this. This is video. Athena 5000 sending us, forwarding us video from Donnie O'Sullivan. Who's Donnie O'Sullivan? He is, I can't read, his description against this background. This is it's a very nice picture you've used for your profile background, but I can't read he's a producer at CNN. I'm able to squint and figure out. So where did he get it? I don't know. Things you see in New York City, Melissa McCarthy riding Sean Spicer's podium through Midtown. So I guess it comes from, or is maybe going to be used later for Saturday Night Live. I don't want to spoil it. I won't play the audio, but you can probably picture just driving it in traffic. It's motorized. Let's see. What else have we here? Oh, what is this Rebecca has sent us? Fair and balanced, my ass, she says. Let's see. This is a Liz, like Lisa, Liz, maybe Liz. Power tweet. I don't know who that is, but 1, Fox News interviews man in diner. 2, man implies timing of Comey's firing is suspect. Was the FBI getting too close? Fox ends interview with man. Well, that's interesting. He was getting too close too. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of conversation going on here this morning. Albert Titus. So Trump was taping, or quote taping, their private dinner conversation. Does he think he was at Mar-a-Lago? Well, maybe. I'm sure he treats the White House pretty much the way he tweets Mar-a-Lago, or treats Mar-a-Lago. That's a slip of the tongue there. I don't know about I doubt very much that he has the same bikini changing room, but he may have gotten rid of that at Mar-a-Lago anyway. Let's see. What else has Greg got for us? A procedure piece. Yes, thank you. I want to hang on to that one. Oh, is it Wall Street Journal? Will it open for me? Okay. Well, so far so good. So let me keep that one open on the healthcare front. When we get around back to that after we settle the question of do we still have a president? Is he going to be impeached? And what else is this? Something from the New York Times. I bet it's about Trump. Yes, here we are. Okay, you've given me the background articles. I think I may have this one set aside, but it may be the source that I need for all of my recollection of things. This was about the dinner and the demand for loyalty and Comey's demurrer to that demand for loyalty. What a weird thing to do. And it's very Godfather-ish. And a lot of people have pointed that out. All right. So anyway, at least we have our source for the loyalty pledge. That source is the lying, failing New York Times, which is totally lying and failing, and you shouldn't listen to them. All right. I think we're up to date also on the comments. Although I may have missed one or two that came in without the hashtag, but we'll try and round those up and stay on track. TweetDeck, the TweetDeck app on my Mac is in the habit now of they must have updated it. Every time they update it in some way, it freezes uncontrollably for about a week or two, and then it gets back on track when they fix the bugs in their new update. So 2 updates for every update, I guess. One to screw you up and then one to allegedly fix the thing. All right. Other things that need acknowledgement today. Well, let's just run down the list here. There's the NBC News likewise has a story on the dinner. And let's see, do they have a different tack on this? Why did I put this one aside as well? My dinner with Comey. Current and former FBI officials dispute Trump account of meeting with FBI director. Okay, so there's the New York Times, I think was the first out with the Pledge of Loyalty angle on the story. NBC has this. Despite what Donald Trump said earlier in the day, James Comey did not seek a dinner with the president to retain his job. One current and one former FBI official close to Comey told NBC News Thursday evening. The January dinner meeting between the two men, the sources said, was requested by the White House. And I think in the Lester Holt interview, and there's an embedded clip of it. I don't know if it's exactly this clip, but I recall from the clip that I saw that I think Trump hedges a little bit and says he asked for the meeting, and then he's asked to follow up to clarify. And I think Trump kind of hedges and says, I'm not really sure who originated the request for the meeting, but I think it was him. And that may be enough to cover him on that one. And people do slip up. I mean, he's an idiot. He slips up all the time. But once in a while, I'm sure there's a genuine mistake made in between all the lies. So the January dinner meeting between the two men was requested by the White House, and the former senior FBI official said Comey would never have told the president he was not under investigation, also contradicting what Trump said. He tried to stay away from it, the Russia ties investigation, I'm sure, said the former official who worked closely with Comey and keeps in touch with him. He would say, look, sir, I really can't get into it, and you don't want me to. And you don't want me to because you'll get impeached if I do. Even though he probably would also get fired. And again, back to that, I mean, he should be fired. He should be. And Trump's the only one who can do it. And there's a lot of legal opinions circulating, very technical legal opinions from law professors and constitutional lawyers and the like, who basically come to the same conclusion. If he's going to go down for this one, it's going to be process oriented, which makes me happy for two reasons. One of which is that it's process oriented. Anyway, let's see. A current FBI official, NBC News continues, confirmed that Comey did not request the one-on-one dinner. These dinners, I'm telling you, which happened at the White House a few days after Trump was sworn in. In an exclusive interview with NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt earlier Thursday, Trump said twice that he believed Comey requested the dinner. Trump said Comey asked that Trump keep him on as FBI director and told the president on 3 occasions that he was not under investigation as part of the FBI inquiry into Russian election interference. The president is not correct, the former official said. The White House called him out of the blue. That is Comey. The White House called Comey. Comey did not want to do it. He didn't even want the rank and file at the FBI to know about it. But in the end, he is still the commander-in-chief. He's your boss. How do you say no? I am ketchup intolerant. I don't know. I'm not certain how you get out of it. Several sources close to Comey say they heard from him shortly after the dinner that he was asked to come to the White House and did so reluctantly without even telling people at the FBI about it. They confirm a New York Times account recalling that Comey told them that during the dinner, Trump asked him a couple of times if he would be loyal to the president, and that Comey said he couldn't promise that, but that he could promise he would always be honest. The former official said, official said, this is exactly how I would expect the director to answer. And me too. The former official, like many current and former FBI officials interviewed by NBC News, said the Bureau was reeling from the Comey firing. Not everyone agreed with each Comey decision, but he was a popular and well-regarded director, they said. We'll see. White House Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she had a hell of a day, didn't she? Claimed Thursday that she had heard from countless members of the FBI who were grateful for the president's decision. Current and former FBI agents scoffed at what they termed a ridiculous assertion. I doubt 5 people at the FBI even have the phone number of the Deputy White House Press Secretary, the former senior official said. NBC News reported Thursday that the White House abandoned its initial idea for Trump to visit FBI headquarters after learning he would not be greeted warmly there, like at his inauguration, where he also was not greeted particularly warmly. The idea that people were picking up the phone and calling the deputy press secretary. Hello, White House? This is Special Agent Jones. I need to, I'm just realizing how that phone call went. Hello, White House? This is Special Agent John Barron, and I need to talk to the Deputy White House Press Secretary. I just wanted to tell you that everybody hates this guy over here. Can't wait for him to be fired by the fantastic president, the 45th president, who's going to make America great again. Here he is. Yeah. So, I mean, fake calls to the White House, I doubt that even happened. They didn't even come up with that. That was just, I think, a figure of speech. He was trying to lend herself some credibility, and then she probably realized after the fact, oh my God, what did I just say? Nobody calls me. No one from the FBI, whatever, called the White House, much less to speak to the deputy press secretary about it. I think, and a good explanation, I thought, was somebody posited that this was really her recycling of stuff she heard, perhaps, during the campaign, maybe from Giuliani, and that this was really an attempt at laundering the off-the-record anti-Clinton statements relayed to the campaign from perhaps the New York field office via Rudy Giuliani, who's said to have lots of friends there from Trump land, as they called it during the campaign, who are anti-Clinton. And I think that was an attempt to turn that into, yeah, of course all the agents hate Comey and knew he should be fired. Certainly nobody talked to Sarah Huckabee Sanders about this, but she did have a hell of a day, and it didn't last very long. The weird press enchantment with the idea that she was somehow a slicker, more sophisticated liar than Sean Spicer. By the end of the day, she was as blunt and brutal a liar as he has ever been. I can't imagine either one of them are particularly well regarded in the press at this point, although it may be that Trump loves them. And maybe he's now, maybe Spicer's falling out of favor. I don't know. He's supposed to be back on press briefing duty today, but I don't know. We will see. And she was pretty remarkable. And the bit I remember was her insisting that no, the stories that other people are telling and the story that we're telling now and the story the president was just revealed telling in the Lester Holt interview, it's all consistent. Don't worry about it. It's all our stories are consistent, even as everybody says how this person has said the exact opposite as of the president, and you can't call that consistent. It's not. I don't know. I mean, she's just standing there insisting that, or as I guess as I put it in the tweets yesterday, I'm imagining this imaginary conversation, dialogue between reporters and Spicer, not Spicer, but Huckabee Sanders. Like, I'm sorry, did you just fart? And having her answer, that is perfume. And everybody's saying, okay, we're supposed to believe that. Yeah, follow up. I was asking about the noise. Actually, yes, that is actually perfectly consistent with what I just said. How so? It doesn't even fit into the same rubric. Okay, fine. You're a much more sophisticated liar. That's terrific. Can't wait to discuss that one. But I was reminded by the fact that, all this focus on the dinner with, Comey reminds me one of the three wacko interviews from yesterday. I think we touched on two of them. There was the Economist one. Oh, by the way, reminded me also. The Economist one Greg told us about, in which he insisted that he had invented the term priming the pump as an economic term of art. And that he had just invented it like a couple of days ago. And we all know that A, that's not true, but, B, he didn't, it's not only obviously he didn't invent it, but that it's not just a week or two old. It's been in use as an economic term since the 30s. And then, of course, Merriam-Webster dictionary said, I guess, in other senses, priming the pump has been in use for hundreds of years, or I don't know, 150. I forget where they pegged it, something like 19th century usage or something. Doesn't really matter. He didn't invent it. It certainly wasn't last week, but I'm reminded, how is it again? Now, as we recall, he was interviewing with The Economist, so it was particularly ironic. Although, when I recounted that story at home, my wife was like incredulous. How did they continue the interview? Why doesn't the Economist guy say, "Are you crazy? You didn't invent that. You're out of your mind." Everybody knows that term. It's been around for 100 years. You're crazy. How could you possibly claim that? But instead, they're stunned into near silence. They kind of try to interject, saying, actually, and they just let themselves get run over. But, and I'm not so certain that wouldn't happen to me. I'd be stunned as well. And they figure, well, I don't know, I have other questions to move on to. And you're going to get yourself thrown out. I mean, we have seen Trump terminate an interview, right? When he was talking with Dickerson, the Face the Nation. interview, and he's pressing him on, what was it? I don't know. But he kicks him out, right? That's it. This interview is over. That's enough. Goodbye. Get out of here. So, I mean, it would end, and I guess you could find yourself in trouble with your editor, but you'd be a hero anyway. But maybe prime the pump isn't the hill to die on for The Economist. But, bigger problem was, and thank God it was, at least it was The Economist, and everybody can point to the irony of trying to econosplain economics terms to The Economist. But there's a part that I had forgotten, and I didn't remember it until I had more family conversation, until I talked to my dad, last night, who says, yeah, by the way, where would a Wharton grad who has a BS in economics have ever heard the term priming the pump before? Gee whiz, I can't possibly imagine. How did and remember when he was claiming, I'm a very smart person. I graduated like first in my class at Wharton, which is a great school. And of course, early on, we knew he didn't graduate first in his class. We, even on the show, we examined the program from the 1968, was it, graduation ceremony? You find him listed there. He's not listed with any kind of honors whatsoever, which calls into question first in the class. And they didn't do class rankings and all of that, but, he wasn't at the head of his class. And I guess he must have skipped the one where they defined priming the pump. But, I mean, how you make it all the way through Wharton and insist that, not only have you never heard it, but that when you finally did hear it, it was because you were in the middle of inventing it. That seems unlikely to me. Oh, Armando, no, I'm not waving you off. I'm just, I'm caught up in my own excitement here. No, not at all. So, I'll make sure you get I know you're on like 15-second delay. So you're now hearing it. Now I'm wasting my time. Okay. Anyway, Armando, you're absolutely, welcome to come in today. Although I do want to make sure that I get to another story that I have here pre-recorded from one of our friendly correspondents out there that have been holding for a couple of days. It's not, Trump related, so it might be a welcome break. We could hold it over. I might find myself wrapped up in a conversation all the way through the 2 hours today, but it really has been rather remarkable. The thing I wanted to get to about the dinner, though, there were the three crazy interviews: The Economist, the Lester Holt one, and did we touch on this one? The Time Magazine one. There's a lot packed into that one, and that might be the scariest one because it's the furthest ranging, and they just put clips, and it looks like he jumps from topic to topic, and he may do that. I do that. I can understand that. But I don't know. Somehow it accentuates his scatterbrainedness in a way that I do not. I'm certain. So there are tapes of this show, though, so I have to be careful. Anyway, in the Time interview is where the steam-powered joke comes from, for one thing. But what I was actually interested in, and so was is it Bloomberg or Business Insider? Yeah, they picked up on this one too. The Time interview is weird, but an additional feature of the Time interview was that he invited the Time journalists where? To dinner. Another freaking dinner with this guy. But Business Insider is what I have here, commenting on the Time magazine's comments on what dinner was like. And I'm sure it's in a separate article in Time somewhere. I have the one where he answers the questions. I don't have the one about the dinner. So I'm going to rely on Business Insider for this one. Pamela Engel. And this says, I don't know. For anybody else, it's nothing. For him, somehow, it says a lot. Headline: Trump gets 2 ice cream scoops at White House dinners. Everyone else gets 1. This guy. Reporters from Time Magazine dined with President Donald Trump in the White House, where it appeared that the waiters are well accustomed to catering to his preferences. I'm sure he has made his preferences clear numerous times. Okay, let's see. So what are his preferences? The magazine's story on Trump, After Hours, contains this tidbit. And here they're quoting from Time. As he settles down, they bring him a Diet Coke. Remember, by the way, when he insisted on Twitter, I've never seen a skinny person drinking a Diet Coke. Hardy har. As he settles down, they bring him a Diet Coke, while the rest of us are served water, which is good for you, with the vice president sitting at one end of the table. that's interesting that he invites the vice president to come and sit in on these dinners. It's a nice thing to do to include him. But I think he doesn't know that you don't have to, but maybe in case he wants somebody official sounding or with, normal looking hair to say something about policy, ask the vice president. So there he is at the other end of the table. With the salad course, Trump is served what appears to be Thousand Island dressing. And I like Thousand Island dressing, but it's not classy, right? Anyway, he served what appears to be Thousand Island dressing instead of the creamy vinaigrette for his guests. When the chicken arrives, he is the only one given an extra dish of sauce. This is beginning to sound familiar, isn't it? At the dessert course, he gets 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream with his chocolate cream pie, which actually is kind of, I remember reading this yesterday and saying, all right, you like a certain ratio of ice cream to cake when you're eating at a la mode. Chocolate cream pie, I probably would not put ice cream on. That's actually kind of too much for me. But he gets 2 scoops. Instead of the single scoop for everyone else, the tastes of Pence are also tended to. Instead of the pie, he gets a fruit plate. Good for you, Mike. Anyway, what it illustrates, of course, a number of things. The catering to him, one thing. The extra scoop of ice cream, probably not a good idea, necessarily. But, he's in astonishingly excellent health. But again, you have your little idiosyncrasies. I like more ice cream with the cake than just 1 scoop, and you know that, and I live here, and you should bring it. And if anybody else, it would be one thing if anybody else wanted it, or you would say, by the way, the chef here, the staff usually puts it together with 1 slice of cake or 1 slice of pie and 1 scoop of ice cream, which a lot of people think is just fine. I like to have more ice cream. That's just me personally. If anyone else, by the way, would like to have another scoop of ice cream, we do have more, and I can offer it to you. But I don't think that comes up. I think he regards that as a presidential prerogative. I think it's actually in the Constitution that I get an extra scoop of ice cream wherever I go. If I go to an ice cream shop, like, I don't know, and I was going to say Ben & Jerry's, but they're like liberal crazies. I don't like them. But you go in and you just automatically, you order a single scoop, they give you a double just because you're president. It's like the 25th Amendment, I think. Interesting citation there, sir. So he gets 2 scoops of vanilla ice cream. But what it reminded me of, and I assume it reminds you listening at home of, is, well, 1, the dressing, the special dressing for him, and an extra dish of sauce. I like sauce too, I'm sure. Again, if I'm 70 and I'm 250 pounds and, got a Diet Coke button on my desk, I'd probably say, I'll just eat my regular portion of the sauce, go back to 1 scoop of ice cream. Try to do something for yourself, not him. But I think this clarifies the Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, was it lunch, dinner with him? A little bit. And I no longer have to assume that it was fish sticks and ketchup when they wouldn't name what kind of fish they were using or what the sauce was. But here, at least we see it's clearly a feature of these dinners that Trump is a creature of habit and he is to be served his favorite salad dressing, while the classy, nice stuff, I mean, in a way, you could look at it that way and say, well, the grown-up stuff goes to the guests, but I just can't, I don't like that. I like the same salad dressing I've had since 1962. And bring me Thousand Island dressing. And I'm sure that the White House, the chefs and the staff, they're like, oh my God, I've bottled dressing for this guy and, Wishbone. I haven't had Wishbone dressing in the pantry at the White House since 1962. But okay, fine. Thousand Island dressing. And chicken with the extra sauce. Anyway, it makes a lot more sense of the weird, mysterious version of stuff where he was getting special sauce delivered only to him. And it isn't because it's so super classy. It's because it's actually quite downscale, but that's what he likes. It reminds me of I don't know. I got picky eaters in my family, right? I have brothers who were, until they were 17 years old, ate nothing but, chicken nuggets and corn or I'd have French fries. I remember that very well. And I got kids now who are the same way and I want mac and cheese 5 days a week. So, but this man is a billionaire, 70 years old and president of the United States. And usually you develop some level of sophistication along the way. He hasn't. It's a story. It's worth telling. I don't know. I like to, and I tell myself it's worth telling because it's taken me 40 minutes to get out here. All right. Armando, I don't know whether you gave up and also turned off the radio. I don't know. He says you've got a new fact point on my conflict in picking a new FBI director. Okay, let's see. Oh, he's being Trump in this one because he says he's got the best words if you want to hear him. And now then he thought I was waving him off. I'm not, but maybe you're busy or maybe you're banging your head against the wall. Stop doing that. You're certainly welcome. And today's a great day for it. All right. Well, in the absence then of moving on to those stories, let's see what else is in pocket here. I know I can remind myself of all the things I meant to tell you about during the week. Let's see. Yes, important. Oh, yes. We might as well discuss the Steam thing in case you didn't get that reference. Oh, and I have to explain a joke as well. That's very important. I've made a joke and it needs explanation. So over in Time Magazine, wide-ranging interview, which if you either read it imagining Trump's voice or worse, you have to listen to me doing Trump's voice. I got to stop all the auto-playing video. I swear, I clicked stop 100 times. It's just not working. Zeke Miller, lead on the Time Magazine interview. And this is like the raw, not the full transcript, but the raw, just quick question, answer format. And let's see. I mean, at first he goes on at some length about the job itself and how it's very difficult, as we know. But interestingly, now he's learned he wants to give himself a better spin than the one the other day, where it's so difficult. It's harder than I thought it was going to be, etc. This was very. He's pretty full of himself, and he goes on. I find the job very natural for me. I find it's a very big job, obviously. There's no job big like this. No job is important like this. But I just think that it's something that works for me. It feels very natural to me. And all I said, the job is, it's a difficult job, but it's a job that I find to be, I love doing it. I love helping people. Mike, who he means Pence, I just refer to him as Michael. Mike is doing a fantastic job. He fits it so well. I mean, we have a great team. He and I, it's hard to even read it because he's so disjointed. He and I guess. He and I guess, he and I guess is what he means to say. They say we're somewhat opposite, and that works to be a very good combination. On deal making in business versus deal making in Washington, he essentially says, I think it's exactly the same thing. That's why I'm so good at it, et cetera, et cetera. On whether the White House is too combative, here is interesting. He says, I think it is. It could be my fault. You may never hear that again. I don't want to necessarily blame, but there's a great meanness out there. It's them and the other that I'm surprised at. I mean, I'm surprised. I know you're surprised. You just said you were surprised. I'm surprised. I mean, I'm surprised. That the I mean is actually not supposed to be just a verbal crutch. It's supposed to be a hint to us that you're going to explain in different terms what you just said to us. But if you say, I'm surprised, what I mean is, I'm surprised. What I mean is, what I meant to say, I don't know if that was clear to you, I'm surprised. Yeah. Are you surprised? Can you clarify that? Okay. Thank you. Glad you could get that one cleared up. On whether the White House has chosen to be combative, he says no, but apparently he wants to get away from that. Business versus politics. This was kind of interesting just in terms of like the emptiness of the answer. I don't quite get it. If I'm going to do a job with the lowering taxes, better health care, take care of people, take care of hospitalization, all the things we're doing, because there's no plan now. You would think that people would like that. And they don't. I used to get credit in business, but they want to belittle everything you do. Business is easier because you put something up, it's good, whatever. But the politics is tough. And, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something to that, or rather it tells us that he was able to shield himself easier from the bad in business because he just would make it clear. Look, if you give me bad news or bad reviews, I don't want to hear from you. I punish you. If you work for me, you're out. If you don't work for me, I freeze you out of my circle. I put up a building. It's good because all I read is how good it is. And if nobody says it's good, I will call a newspaper saying I'm somebody else, saying what I really like is that new Donald Trump building. And then they print that and then you bring me that clip. So I guess this is his first experience with finding out that there's disagreement about the greatness of things that he's done. Now here, we get into the steam bit here. They begin to ask him about negotiating with defense contractors. So first he goes and he claims again, I saved $1 bazillion trillion on the F-35. And again, the story of how Japanese Prime Minister Abe thanked him for saving them $100 million on their own F-35 procurement. And, it's gobbledygook about how he renegotiated the contract, and it's all up to him. And he personally saved billions of dollars, which I have no doubt he believes. And then they get into another area of defense contracting. This is on this, and who even knew this was an issue with him? But I guess he's got interests everywhere. On the future of USS Ford class carriers. I guess the latest generation of aircraft carriers. Still working on this this system that has him so upset. So this is, I don't know if this has ever come up before. It's never struck me, but he goes on here to say, the catapult is quite important. And I can't even bother with the voice on this one. I want to focus on this one just for a second. The catapult. And we're talking about the catapult that launches planes off of an aircraft carrier. Quite important. It is quite important to an aircraft carrier. It's the part that makes it possible to be an aircraft carrier. I guess the runway, the decking, likewise very important. The tail hook and the wires. Okay. Anyway, so he says, the catapult is quite important. So I said, what is this? And we enter into the middle of the conversation. I guess he's touring an aircraft carrier. What is this? And I guess the answer comes from, whoever the officer is who's giving him the tour. Sir, this is our digital catapult system. He said, well, we're going to this because we wanted to keep up with modern. And here then they put in technology in brackets. Like, again, the cyber, you got to keep up with the modern. And I said, you don't use steam anymore for catapult? You don't use steam anymore for catapult. The catapult, the catapults. And where did he even learn that they even used steam piston catapults in the first place? I don't know how widespread that knowledge is. Maybe it's just something you come across or whatever, or he learned it once, or I don't know, toured an aircraft carrier once when he was a kid. You don't use steam anymore? No, sir, is supposedly the answer. I said, how is it working? What? He didn't. There's no chance for that he's, how's that going? All right, fine. Sir, not good. Not good. Doesn't have the power. The steam is just brutal. You see that sucker going and steam's going all over the place. There's planes thrown in the air. This is not the admiral or officer talking. Obviously, this is him discussing. I guess he's seen planes take off from an aircraft carrier before. It sounded bad to me. Digital. They have digital. What is digital? And it's very complicated. You have to be Albert Einstein to figure it out. And I said, and now they want to buy more aircraft carriers. I said, what system are you going to be? And that's it. This is the way he does it. He means to say, what system are you going to be using on the new aircraft carriers? And they answered, but this is how it comes out of his mouth. I said, what system are you going to be? Sir, we're staying with digital. I said, no, you're not. You're going to goddamn steam. The digital costs hundreds of millions of dollars more money, and it's no good. So he's going to overrule the Navy on this one. No, get rid of the digital. You have to be Albert Einstein to figure it out. Now here, I have to explain what was going on. I made a joke, and I very quickly showed myself out of the room. The meme of the century, of course, has been the but her emails meme, right? Every time he says something completely insane, it's like now putting us over the top here. This is the last straw. But her emails. And I had to take the opportunity and put the joke out there, but her emails. And I didn't misspell emails. Emails, this is a very dry joke. The digital that you have to be Albert Einstein to understand. The new launching system is called the Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, or Electromagnetic EM, Aircraft Launch System, EMALS. The Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System. By the way, are you putting on your Albert Einstein hat? But her emails. You're going to learn about the emails. It's, according to Wikipedia, the system under development by the United States Navy to launch carrier-based aircraft from an aircraft catapult using a linear motor drive instead of the conventional steam piston drive. The main advantage, and the reason that they're going through with this, Thelonious, thank you very much. Trump was on an aircraft carrier in March, according to this CNN article here. So that's where he learned about the steam. You're not using the steam? I just learned about the steam. Damn. What are you using? The digital? Anyway, by the way, much more video now emerging of Melissa McCarthy driving around out in the street. I guess they must be taping this for Saturday. So everybody ruining the joke. Thanks a lot, guys. Okay, so why replace the steam with the digital? Main advantage, apparently, the system allows for a more graded acceleration, inducing less stress on the aircraft's airframe. The airplanes break less frequently if you actually let them take off, like they would from the ground. Slower, faster, and up, instead of just flinging them in the air, which works, but is very stressful. For everyone, not just emotionally, but stress on the airframe, and that causes damage to the aircraft. Now, there's more advantages, of course, and that's why they're working so hard to try and come up with a working system. Other advantages include lower system weight with a lower projected cost and decreased maintenance requirements. You're spending hundreds of millions and you already have the steam. Well, there's lots of problems with this. Although the steam stuff apparently extraordinarily reliable, it's just, like he says, it's brutal, but in the sense that it's brute force and you're inflicting it on the planes. Overall, the costs, even though the propulsion system, the catapult system, costs more to develop, as any new system does at first, the damage you're not doing to the planes saves money. The weight of the system saves on fuel. It saves on construction costs of the ship itself. But screw all of that. You gave me a dollar number and it's bigger. So that's wrong. He knows all about this stuff. I don't know. I don't know all that much about it too, but this is a pretty, I don't know. This at least makes me say, we're going to have a bigger spreadsheet here. I want to know what it's costing us to build. I want to know what it's costing us to make once we design it and we got it right. How much more do we have to pay to build the second one, third one, fourth one? Tell me about the savings on fuel. Tell me about the savings on space in the ship, because there's a lot more about this. Let's see. The design includes the ability to launch aircraft that are both heavier and lighter than conventional systems can accommodate. Remember, this steam piston thing, if you've seen it work, it's got one speed and it just flings you forward with all its force. And on fighter jets, that's fine. If all you want to launch is fighter jets, what about if you want to put something heavier up? Can't really do it. Sometimes some of the steam catapults, I guess a little heavier they can deal with, but if you want to launch a much larger aircraft, it theoretically should be possible from the deck of an aircraft carrier. It's a little tough, but you're going to need to put a little extra juice behind it, and the steam piston can only give you what the steam piston can give you. This new system can be programmed for more force, or probably more importantly, less force. Because one thing that cannot be launched from aircraft carriers, and these things are becoming increasingly important to modern warfare, unmanned aircraft, drones, the smaller things that don't carry all the weight of a full-fledged fighter aircraft. You put it on the steam piston, and I guess it just basically flings it forward, flips it over backwards, and plunges into the ocean. You just can't put the same steam piston force behind an unmanned craft and expect it to work. But you can, with the new system, dial it down a notch and give it the correct force. You can launch a much broader spectrum of modern-day aircraft from the deck of a newly equipped aircraft carrier. But screw that. Steam. It's like all over the place. It's awesome. I read a little bit more about it. But I think the basics are here in the Wikipedia thing. I might as well fill you in so that you sound smart for the weekend too. In addition to being able to adjust the force behind the catapult, there's this. The system requires far less, and I guess it still requires some, but far less, fresh water. Well, wait a minute now. Hold on a second. Fresh water. What? Oh, yeah. Oh, steam. Steam pistons. Gosh. That's right. Steam. You can't, now granted you're floating on water. You shouldn't be at a loss for, water for making steam if you're floating on an ocean, except of course, you realize, hey, no, wait a second. You can't just boil seawater and expect that to work. You gotta have fresh water to create the steam or you're going to destroy your pistons. Anyway, so where do you get all that fresh water? Well, you could carry it with you if you want, but that's going to take up an enormous amount of space. And of course, you have an aircraft carrier crew. The fresh water you're carrying is really, you need it for them to drink, cook with, bathe in, what have you. But you're out there for a long time. So you got to use what you can carry, but you're also going to have a desalinization plant. There are desalinization plants built into modern aircraft carriers so to continue to provide fresh water. That's going to take up an enormous amount of space and add an enormous amount of weight. You're still going to need it, obviously, for the other functions for which you need fresh water on board ship, but it doesn't have to be working overtime all the time to also launch the planes. And maybe, just maybe, could be a smaller, more compact, lighter plant. That means less fuel, less and more energy that can be put into the drive. You're going to have faster ships, perhaps more maneuverable ships. Lots of this stuff would be pretty good. Let's see. Another comment on the aircraft carriers from Thelonious. I'm a huge skeptic of military spending. Everyone ought to be. But this new ultra high-tech catapult is technology we should master. I think we're probably right. And I think the Navy thinks that's probably right. But he thinks the steam, the hell with that. You're going back to the goddamn steam. He's just going to command you to do it. And in addition, you're giving me a goddamn second scoop of ice cream. Well, there's lots more. And lots more to the interview. And I absolutely recommend that everybody read it. And it's mind-boggling how childlike he is in his approach to almost everything. And I think it's the most alarming of the three interviews. And we don't have time to sort all the way through it here today, but I recommend it to you unless you're one of the people that gets nervous about the fact that this president is unequipped to handle a crisis and you worry that there might be one. Everyone should feel that way, but if you're able to compartmentalize it, you can enjoy the interview for its comedy value. Only later will you end up with the headache of, oh my God, what are we going to do? And the answer is we're all going to die. Towards which end, I point you also, you might as well relieve that stress with this piece from McSweeney's, which is always good for a laugh, a dry laugh, of course. Dan Cluchy, C-L-U-C-H-E-Y, writes this one. Good for a laugh. Save it for the weekend. Winners and losers of the recent nuclear holocaust. Exactly how this thing is going to be covered. When we have that nuclear war, this is pretty much how it'll be covered in our modern media. Give you some idea of how the nation, and just dry as hell to start out here. The nation was recently rocked by retaliatory nuclear blasts that have turned much of America into a barren wasteland, decimating the population, triggering the rise of firestorms and supervolcanoes, and generally bringing civilization to the brink of collapse. Let's take a look at the political fallout. It's separated into winners and losers. And, man, I could probably spend, half an hour reading this fantastic, fun piece, but I'll let you take a look at it, by the way, though, not to spoil things, because the real humor, of course, is in the reasoning. Winners, congressional Republicans, of course. It's great news for John McCain. CNN and Donald Trump. Our losers, of course, Hillary Clinton, who will have had nothing to do with it, but she's the loser anyway. Decorum, of course, is the big loser in this nuclear holocaust, and all of those people who died. Those are big losers, aren't they? Everyone should take a look at this piece and keep it nearby your desk. It'll help relieve the stress, I think, of having read the Time interview. Other things that need to be put on the record before the weekend. Let's see. I will wait on Armando to deal with any more about Rosenstein and Comey, so we can see what's up about that. Oh yes, I had a special request via Daily Kos mail from, let's see. Well, I don't know whether it occurs to me that I didn't ask specific permission to say who sent this correspondence. And although I wouldn't imagine it would cause a problem, because it came in email, we'll be discreet about it. And, if it's fine to identify you, we can go back and do that at a later point. But we'll say a very smart and observant reader and listener has asked, can we remind people on the show of the mechanics of a discharge petition? Because Nancy Pelosi in the House is apparently looking to leverage the power of discharge petitions. And I haven't really discussed this in a while, but let's grab some news sources about it, so that we can include some links to prove to you that she actually is thinking about a discharge petition. And we'll remind you of the mechanics. It's pretty simple, but let me be sure that I have the right story here. As the first one that comes up is from The Hill, and everybody loves The Hill, right? Pelosi threatens to force vote on outside Russia probe. And it is, of course, the discharge petition is the mechanism she's thinking of using for it. Okay. House Democrats, it says here, are eyeing plans to force a vote on the creation of an independent panel to investigate President Trump's ties to Russia following the dismissal of FBI Director James Comey this week. A pause here to say, by the way, I don't think that we've entirely settled on the ask here or the demand here. There are at least two ways currently that exist in current law to deal with this investigation. One would be there are three ways, but outside of Congress doing oversight hearings, either on an existing committee or a special new committee, there is, as this discharge petition herein discussed demands, an independent panel, like a blue ribbon outside panel, like the 9/11 Commission, to which would be named, prominent citizens, politicians, etc., probably in equal numbers, Democrat and Republican, so that it's inherently fair, which means that it's actually inherently a problem and will never go anywhere and can produce nothing. Or there's the special prosecutor route, and they both have their own distinct advantages and disadvantages. I'm not certain that independent panel is the way to go, and that may yet change, but the mechanism would be the same. Certainly the discharge petition could do either one. Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi on Wednesday urged Republican leaders to bring the legislation to the floor next week when Congress returns to Washington following a recess. The other half of Congress, the House. The Senate was here, but I'm sure by now is gone. So when they come back next week, she wants to see the bill creating the independent panel brought to the floor. Republicans, of course, will be reluctant to do so. If they decline, it says, as expected, Democrats will try to force a vote with a discharge petition. Let's see if The Hill explains them. If they don't, I will. Speaker Ryan must call up this legislation immediately upon our return next week, Pelosi wrote Wednesday in a letter to the members of her caucus. If Republicans continue to work to hide the truth from the American people, it will be necessary for Democrats to file a discharge petition to force a vote on the legislation. A handful of Republicans have joined Democrats in calling for an outside probe following Trump's decision Tuesday to fire Comey, who was leading the FBI's investigation into potential ties between the Trump campaign and Russia. Pelosi and Democrats have been pushing for months to create an independent bipartisan panel to lead an investigation into Russian interference in the election and any potential collusion between the Kremlin and Trump's aides. Ryan and Republicans have refused those entreaties, arguing that the ongoing House and Senate Intelligence Committee probes are sufficient. By threatening a discharge petition, Pelosi and Democrats sense a swing in the debate, one that might pressure some Republicans to endorse the discharge petition or risk facing potential political backlash if they're seen as protecting Trump. Given Director Comey's confirmation of the Trump-Russia inquiry, the president's actions raise questions about whether this dismissal was an attempt to undermine that investigation, Pelosi wrote. The fireworks at the Department of Justice demand that we remove the investigation from the Trump-appointed Justice Department leadership. Trump stirred a political whirlwind Tuesday evening in announcing the ouster of Comey. We all know about that. The move prompted an immediate backlash from scores of Democrats and a handful of Republicans who voiced concerns that his dismissal was designed to sink the FBI's ongoing investigation into Trump's ties to Russia. I would be happy just for an investigation of Trump's ties, quite honestly. Trump and his team are vehemently denying any such link, saying Comey was let go for a series of missteps, including his handling of the investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of private email servers, not emails, as Secretary of State, which resulted in him recommending no charges be brought. Very simply, he was not doing a good job, Trump said Wednesday at the White House. Dems reject the argument, noting that Trump has praised Comey for having the guts to reopen the agency's investigation into Clinton's emails days before the November election. All right. So, the bill is endorsed by every House Democrat and one Republican, Representative Walter Jones. He's the usual suspect in this, of North Carolina. Let's see. Darrell Issa has also advocated this year for an independent investigation. Since the Comey firing, several other Republicans have joined the push, including Barbara Comstock, as we mentioned yesterday, Justin Amash, Carlos Corbello, whose name came up the other day, also supporting the creation of a new investigative panel, though one made up of congressional lawmakers. So they're going to have to decide on the composition of the panel. And it may be that they're pushing for a panel because the panel is the option versus the special prosecutor, that they can get a couple of Republicans to agree to at least pushing in public. And they might not agree on the question of special prosecutor, even though that's probably the better option. But they're looking here for ones that Republicans will agree with. Why? The answer is the discharge petition, and we'll cover the mechanics just briefly. When you are sitting there in the minority and are in the House and helpless to bring anything to the floor over the objections of the majority and the majority leader, who decides what comes to the floor or what to offer for the floor anyway. And it's usually, in the House, it's an easy matter. In the Senate, sometimes there's an issue because you can filibuster motions to proceed, etc. But in the House, simple majority votes to take something up. So it's a pretty easy thing as long as you can hold on to your caucus or conference, as the case may be. So if you are in the minority and the majority is refusing for whatever reason to bring up something that you think is popular enough legislation that it could pass, but for having been blocked for whatever reason, politics, personal whim of the majority leader, backed up by the votes of the majority, you can bring a discharge petition, and a discharge petition successfully executed will, by rule, force this bill to the floor over the objection of the majority leader. What is a discharge petition? It's just that. It's a petition, and basically all it is if you can get a majority of the House membership, whether Democrats, Republicans, doesn't matter. If you can get a simple majority of the membership to sign the petition, that stands in for a roll call vote on the floor to, overrule the majority leader's refusal to bring this thing to the floor. It's a release valve, a mechanism for making sure that one congressional leader doesn't, by personal whim, overwhelm the will of the majority in deciding what they're going to vote on. It has its problems, and it doesn't stand as a perfect proxy for measuring the true will of the majority or how a vote would come out if it came to the floor, because it's got its own political dynamics. But basically all it is it is exactly like it sounds. It's a petition. It's kept at the clerk's desk in the House chamber. And there's usually a number of them pending at any given time. And in the main, they fail. They are used essentially as political leverage, to show when a minority is trying to show that they're doing everything that they can to bring something popular to a vote over, especially over the objections of the majority. And it's very often just used to embarrass members of the majority when they've put themselves in a politically untenable position. But sometimes it depends on the case. In this case, of course, that's exactly what it is. You file this petition, and sometimes there's some sense that you might actually succeed, especially if you can get your entire caucus to sign on to it. That's a pretty good start towards a majority in the House to have all the Democrats sign it. But of course, you'll need members of the majority to cross over. And the fact that the petition is out there, and if you're talking about it, and if it's about an issue that's in the news all the time, there's some possibility that you can then get their constituents at town hall meetings or whatever, in letters and calls to urge people. You can give them the terminology and call and say, I'm urging my congressman, my congresswoman to sign the discharge petition. And then they say, oh crap, this is one of those callers who kind of knows what they're talking about. We got to answer this. Because often if you say, I want you to vote for a special investigative panel on this Russia thing. Well, I'm sure if we get the chance, we'll do that. But so far, there's no legislation pending that does that. But if it should come up for a vote, we'll do something. We'll certainly have your concerns in mind. Or I definitely support it. A lot of times people will just, blurt out, oh, I'm on your side. I support that. It's just not coming to the floor, and the leadership won't let it. Well, there's a discharge petition for it too. I urge the congresswoman to sign the discharge petition. That's something you can do even in the face of opposition from the majority. Fine, I'll go do it. The discharge petition rules have changed a couple of times in recent years, and it makes for an interesting case study. It used to be that signatures on discharge petitions were secret, and that doesn't sound good. And it was in fact a reform pushed by by Gingrich, Newt Gingrich, and the Republican Revolution of the embodied, I guess, by the 1994 elections, when they took back control of the House for the first time in however long, 40-something years. They changed the rules. We want the names on I think they actually did it before then. It was one of the pressure campaigns that he was able to bring to bear in his rise to prominence, actually, if I recall correctly, but to make the names on discharge petitions public. And it's very hard to oppose something like that. And in the end, it's probably the best solution. But the excuse for keeping things secret wasn't that bad either. It wasn't always very helpful. The dynamics of secrecy are pretty sucky, and it's best to be rid of it wherever you can in the main. But the dynamics there were, it used to be, back when the discharge petition was first invented, the speakership was even more powerful than it is today. And you had enormously vindictive House leaders who really rode herd on their caucuses and could make life very difficult for you if you were foolish enough as a member of the majority, or sometimes minority, depends on the politics of things. But if you were foolish enough to sign the discharge petition and have your leadership find out that you had signed a discharge petition that they opposed, they would kick your ass. They would make things very difficult for you. You'd find that your committee assignments begin to change, or that you get crappy ones, or you're not getting your items in appropriations bills, or your bills are languishing and not getting hearings. There's a lot that they can do to punish you. And so it was actually, as a reform idea, not only were they going to have the discharge petition available to rank and file members to overrule the leadership, but you could do it without tipping your hand to the leadership. And they would simply announce when they had gotten a majority, and they'd bring it out. And then at that point, they could verify the signatures. I guess at some point, everybody's going to find out who signed the thing, but at least you're a winner at that point, and you get the vote. And you probably get your way too, because if a majority of the members have signed the thing, presumably they're going to show up and vote for it. Although occasionally you did find that people were like, well, I was just in favor of having a vote. I like votes, but I'm going to vote no, or I've changed my mind recently, or someone has shown me the error of my ways. Anyway, Gingrich managed to get to shame people into changing the rules so that the names were public, because he latched on to the worst case scenario. And it's a bad scenario, and it ends up being worse than the protections you offer members to be able to sign petitions without fear of reprisals from the leadership. That's just one of the things you're going to have to live with if you're in Congress. It's a tough job, and leadership, will kick your ass once in a while. And that's just, you're going to have to stand there and take it. So the excuse, though, used to be, right, you would be able to have freedom of conscience in signing a discharge petition, but it also led people to abuse the system this way, right? People call your office and you say, I want you to vote for such and such a piece of legislation. Oh, yeah, I totally support you. But nothing I can do. That bill's not coming to the floor. Well, you could sign the discharge petition. Well, oh God, now it's a person that knows what a discharge petition is, and I have to answer for that. How will I do that? And the answer that people began to give was, I will, or I did. I absolutely agree with you. I agree with you so much that I'm going down there to sign that discharge petition today. Well, while the names were kept secret, they were able to tell constituents, I'm definitely signing, or lobbyists, I'm signing that discharge petition, and then not do it. And nobody ever finds out, unless, of course, the discharge petition eventually wins and a bill comes to the floor, at which point you can say, oh, I thought I had done that. But anyway, I'll vote for the bill anyway. It's going to pass. I'll go be on the winning side. So now that things are public, you can monitor these things. And that is what the Democrats here are counting on, and using a discharge petition to insist on an independent panel of some sort. Again, not certain that that's the best method for doing the investigation, but it's one that's out there, and it enables Democrats to say, we've all signed it. We need, I don't know what the number is anymore. I forget, 15, 20, whatever, Republicans of good conscience, if we can find them, to sign it too. If you can get Walter Jones to sign, and you can get all the people who are, well, now you go after all the people who in public have said, yes, I would support the creation of an independent panel to investigate this situation. Oh yeah? Well, why haven't you signed the now non-secret discharge petition? And you can put public pressure on people to do that. Some members will do that. Likely the Republicans will keep a close eye on that now that it's public. And as it starts to get close to a majority, they lean harder on people who are leaning that way not to do it until finally, when they're finally ready with their reaction plan and how will we handle this bill, and maybe we can amend it to limit the scope or power of the panel, or however we're going to deal with it. Then you're all free to go and sign the thing, and we say, we hear you, America. We're definitely bringing this bill to the floor. We might even let the discharge petition be the mechanism by which we bring it to the floor, although that risks giving credit to Democrats, so we probably won't do that. But that's what this is all about. That's how the discharge petition works. You ask your member to sign it. It's verifiable. And the idea is to put pressure on, if they can find 15, 20 Republicans who are either of good conscience or are in such political trouble that they cannot afford not to sign, identify those people, pressure them, get those signatures on there, bring the bill to the floor, and dare Republicans to vote against it. That's the play. Armando joins us once again this week. Good morning, Armando. How you doing?
Hey.
Did you have something in particular about? Was it about the Comey situation?
But Trump in a minute. Your points last 30 seconds with Trump.
Yeah.
The latest, you may have seen this. I think it's an iteration of the certified letter from Trump. AP breaking. Trump lawyer, tax returns from past 10 years show no, quote, income of any type from Russian sources, unquote, with few exceptions.
What?
So, well, other than those Russian sources, I don't have any Russian sources.
Wow. What? So is that letter out? Do we know what firm this is?
No, I don't know. I just got the breaking.
I'm still amazed that anybody would take this. So, and was it certified mail? I don't even know whether that part happened.
I don't know anything. I just saw this breaking, and I'm just like, okay, that sounds nice. Can I see the returns?
Yeah, no.
Now that you've seen them, maybe we can see them, because apparently, if they're under audit, the lawyer can see them.
Right.
So it goes beyond the accountants.
Sounds like nonsense. Where did you see it?
There was a breaking AP. If you
right.
look on my thing, on my Twitter
okay.
feed, it's my last thing, as I say, okay.
Yeah.
Can I see the returns now?
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, I'd love to see that, and I'd love to see whether it in fact came
There's
from...
there's a couple. I'll go back to the thing that I wanted to tell you about when I had good words back an hour ago. But the thing that strikes me is, think of the PR play here. Trump is trying to diffuse this Russia thing. It's clearly the only thing in his mind. He says, I didn't get anything from Russia, which
right.
you actually did,
yes.
by the way, even if it's not in your tax returns.
Yeah, I will show no.
They sabotaged Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign for you. So what are you talking about? You didn't get anything from Russia.
Well, yes, there was that, of course. And
I mean, let's start with that, you know, and maybe you wanted to be president because otherwise you wouldn't have run. So let's start with that as the quid pro quo. What did I get from Russia? Well, other than the hacking and the attacks and the bots and the WikiLeaks, nothing.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the theory, because you and I have bandied about this theory. It's been my theory for a long time that Trump's ties to Russia started when he could not get money from anybody else.
Yeah.
And I don't know that anybody's disproved it, frankly, because we have to look and see what he was doing 10 years ago. Now, that's what they say for the last 10 years. So they pick that. So what do they define 10 years as? Are they picking from 2007 to 2017?
Oh, yeah. How do they put it? From past 10 years. Although, yeah, that's pretty funny. I mean, most people would probably assume that means chronologically from here 10 years back. Although what I meant was any 10 years which are in the past. One of them's, 1974.
I don't know who this lawyer is. I don't care what this
apparently.
lawyer says. Lawyers say a lot of things. I'll be honest with you, David. I'll stand up and say my client didn't do anything. Yes,
well, you're allowed to do that generally. There are some things you're not allowed to, and I guess maybe that's part of the reason we don't know who the lawyer is.
Lawyers can't be witnesses. That's the whole thing. Stop testifying for your client. But you got a witness who with fact knowledge, put him on the stand. Oh, you have tax returns that prove this? Enter them into evidence.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do.
You would make it, like we were discussing yesterday, certification. And we still don't know whether there are any I demand to see the receipt for the certified letter, by the way. That's the one thing you promised, which would be a certified letter. I know what you think you meant, but if this didn't come by certified mail, I'm going to be disappointed.
I think now, after seeing this AP story, that Trump is just too stupid to say the words like that. Here, I'm going to provide a certification from my law firm who reviewed my tax returns that I had no connections to Russia.
Yeah. That's clearly what he
meant to say, but they don't know how to speak English.
Yeah. I don't know. But it's pretty dumb. I think, one of the things that I've said, I think all along, I mean, I'd love to see his taxes, but there's not going to be anything on the taxes that say, oh yeah, so $1 million from the Kremlin, 2, $1 million from a mobster.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have to go through it. You got to figure out which LLC is what.
Yes, right. It's all from
we need that.
LLCs that are, very purposefully based elsewhere. It's not going to be, I was tweeting before. I got all my money from
what
not
did he review? If the lawyer only reviewed Trump's personal tax returns, that doesn't mean anything.
That also, yeah. That's what we would get if we clamored. I hate the tax return. I love that he hasn't disclosed, and it's a great way to hit him. But, what we need is a thorough picture of the money he controls, his personal tax returns, but tax returns for all the companies for which he's a director or an officer. Everything. And then, even then, you're not done, because what you got to do there is go through it and say, all right, here's Not Russia LLC, based in Moscow, May, whatever. Right. It's in a Bahamian post office box. This one's registered in Delaware. It's an LLC. It's purposefully opaque. You can't tell that, all the directors of Not Russia LLC, based in, Peoria, Illinois, whatever, some kind of all-American or an offshore, and they're all Russian oligarchs, but you can't tell that from any tax returns except the tax returns of that LLC.
You know, it is interesting because Trump had on his mind this letter yesterday. It reminds me because during the Lester Holt interview, he said, except for a very beautiful house he sold, because remember the house he sold for $95 million in Palm Beach.
Yeah, the beautiful teardown.
Which was torn down and which exceeded the sale of any house in Palm Beach by double.
Yeah, extra fee for the mold.
Right. But the other thing is, I'm now more convinced than ever that this is a letter that they only looked at his personal tax returns. Because there's no way that the Trump organization didn't sell a condo to a Russian.
Right. Yeah, we know about those already. There's towers full of them. And they were all sold to LLCs owned and operated by Russians. They were very explicit in all these things. These are half the units are owned by corporations. They're lived in by people owned by corporations. How does that work? The answer is they're all Russian oligarchs who don't want to be identified for their own purposes, and Trump is just as happy not to have them be identified, as Boris Badenov.
Yeah. This happens to be an issue in England and in London particularly. I know this from my friend Sam Rubenfeld, who writes about these, corruption regimes in the sense of trying to stop anti-corruption regimes all over the country. And in England, there have been debating whether to make LLCs have to disclose who the principals are, because apparently in London the Russians have bought immense amounts of property through LLCs, and of course they're not disclosed. And I can tell you, I know from personal fact in Florida, because I've performed a number of, not for myself but for clients. The owner isn't listed on any public document of an LLC. They have an officer, an agent, a VP, that kind of stuff. But the owner, I don't know who has the shares in those LLCs. I'd never have to disclose who the owner of the LLC is.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how they could have done it. What did they certify?
They've certified nothing. They've certified that I haven't been paid any money personally.
Oh wait, lawyers are paid a lot of money personally.
No.
Probably.
Then yes. The certification is, to the extent that it matters, I assume personal tax returns of Donald Trump's that I have reviewed, 10 years of them, I don't know what 10 years, don't show anybody with a Moscow or Russia address paying money to Donald J. Trump. That's all it could possibly say. Even if it's the business, it would simply say there's nothing for the Trump organization that shows that they cashed a check drawn on a company or drawn on either from a person or a company based in Russia. And that's because all of the money that he got from Russia was sent to him through LLCs that on the surface appear to have been incorporated in the United States or offshore, certainly not in Russia, or maybe a few, there might even be a couple. And when they say with some exceptions, there's probably a few things that are like, okay, well, I hired a contracting company to do some work on the Istanbul hotel deal that is based in Russia, and this was a refund of a partial payment that I made. And those are things that you could probably even excuse. But
a responsible Congress
yes.
would subpoena this attorney, make him come testify, and bring the documents he reviewed.
Yeah. But
we don't have that responsible Congress,
right.
Obviously.
It's but also an enormous amount of work. They want to be out. But
that's actually, I don't know if it's a selling point or not, but it's a hell of a reason to have a Democratic Congress.
Yeah, they would be interested in doing that work. That's true.
They would subpoena the tax returns. And even more so, hey, you showed them to this lawyer and you released a letter about it.
Yeah.
So let's see them.
Right.
Somebody come testify. Tell me what you reviewed.
Right.
Okay, you say you got payments from XDY Corporation. Who owns that? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it could be the Russians.
And it is. So, it's been established. We've read any number of articles that explain quite clearly how much money comes into the Trump organization from Russia and Russian sources. That, there's a pretty direct line, direct enough that the people who send the money know who to wink at when they see them for dinner at Mar-a-Lago. And it's pretty clear. And I don't know. I don't even why am I obsessing over it? Both of his sons, to whom he has released control allegedly of all of the Trump organization, have said on record, yeah, the vast majority of the money invested in the projects we're working on, the vast amount of the sales we've made of units that we've built, the vast amount of partnership agreements we've signed come from Russia. The money comes from Russia. We go there because American banks won't have anything to do with us anymore because we're high risk and we build crap and we lose money. Well, why would Russians be doing it? Because they're not investing, they're laundering the money. That's why we're doing it. We don't do it. They're not buying apartments because they need a place to stay in New York. That's nice. That's true, but this is an easy way to ship money out of the country and turn it into an asset that they can in an emergency when they have to skip town, when Putin comes for their heads and they run from Russia. One, they have a place to land and go to an apartment in New York. Yes, that's nice. But two, they're not going to stay there because Putin knows their address. They're just going to sell the thing and they're going to have somebody else, some other agent sell it and secretly send them the money somewhere that Putin doesn't find them. The point is to buy a real asset for dollars in the United States that's saleable and you can turn into hard currency and wipe it clean of the stain of how you got it in Russia. That's all they're interested in. That's why they don't care that they're not making money. That's why they don't walk away from deals that American banks won't touch. They expect to lose a certain amount of money. It's a convenience fee for laundering the balance. Fine. I'll do it. I don't care. I'm a billionaire oligarch. Will I launder $1 billion down to 100 million if it's hard currency and it's clean at the end? Yes. I will give away 90% of it to whoever so long as I get 100 million clean dollars at the other end. Easy deal. Sign those all day long in Russia.
It's amazing because there is a new strain of stupid punditry now that says, hey, just because Trump's acting like he's hiding something doesn't mean he's hiding something, which...
Yes,
okay,
true.
You know what? Maybe there isn't something there. But you know what? He's blocking the investigation to find out if there is something there. That's all that matters now.
Yeah. Well,
Fox News, Trump lawyer says no Russian income.
Yeah.
That's true.
He does say that.
A Trump lawyer said that.
Yep.
Michael Cohen said a lot of things.
And
too.
that will work for a while. Since we have Comey to focus on, that will lay there alone.
He'll just sit there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to get anybody. I think it's mostly getting eye rolls from what I can tell.
Yeah.
But it just does refocus. This guy, we don't know where his money comes from.
Yeah. Well, we have difficulty tracing it because, it's not that difficult
because
either.
We haven't seen his
right.
His
Once you get a foothold, if you find out, okay, this unit is owned by, or the partner in this building is so-and-so LLC, it takes footwork. It's hard to do because it costs time, but you get it. The one thing that they haven't done so far is they haven't been able to identify everybody. That's true. But they haven't yet run into the LLC that wasn't at least somewhat transparent with the controlling authority. They're for some reason they're still not concerned with hiding the identities of everybody. I'm sure there are some people that are more careful than others, but they're usually able to find, in Delaware, somewhere in a filing cabinet are the names associated with this thing LLC, and they're all out there, and very often, sometimes it's another LLC, and that's the signal that, okay, this is somebody who's trying to hide. But for whatever reason, they do continue. At bottom somewhere, these oligarchs still put their name on the incorporating articles somewhere, and I guess, some bank somewhere forces them to do it. But
a bank will have all the information, of course. They get to know.
Yeah.
But the point, we don't get to know, apparently.
You have to do research to do it, and that costs money. And
yeah, but we don't know who we're researching yet. The lawyers saw the tax returns. Right. We didn't.
All we have a couple of articles. We know the names of buildings that have Trump on them, and we know from the local
we know his universe was in Moscow, which he also mentioned yesterday.
Oh yes, right, that too. You know what? Here's something that I've got that. Maybe we'll switch over to this just for interest. I put aside this diary on Daily Kos, which the source of which, it's got all the links that you need to have in a good diary over at Daily Kos. But I was intrigued by the title of it. It's fairly recent, last Sunday. Trump's Taj Mahal laundromat. Okay. That's what we're talking about. Kind of explaining at least one of his money laundering deals, which I think was just replicated in the real estate model later on, but all about how people basically just take their cash. They don't ask questions when you go to a casino and you bring a stack of cash. Did you murder anybody for this money? No. Okay. They don't even bother to ask that, by the way. Did you pack your own bags? No, I didn't. We don't care. We're a casino. Oh, you're not flying anywhere. But way back in the day when he still owned casinos, people figured out, this was a problem from the beginning with casinos. It was a huge problem in Las Vegas, and they strove to clean this up as much as they could. Didn't do a great job with it in Atlantic City until it was too late. But you just bring a stack of dirty money and turn it into chips. Play, don't play, whatever. At the end of the day, they don't know what you do with your chips. Come back with the chips and say, I'd like to cash in my chips. Look at all the chips I won. They give you cash on the other end, and there's no transaction. There's occasionally, if you're trying to do like millions of dollars, they'll make you put a name down and sign something. But if you have money, whether it's dirty like I stole it, whether it's dirty like the person I took it from had recorded all the serial numbers on the bills because I took it from the FBI in a sting operation, and you bring it in, and if you manage to get it to the chips and turn it into the chips and then wait a day and cash them back in, you get back different bills. It's money laundering. And all day long, that was going on in the Trump Taj Mahal, apparently, including, by the way, laundering his own father's money when he fell into debt and he needed an infusion of cash to satisfy bondholders on the casino ownership group, and he didn't have the cash for it. His dad just sent his lawyer with a check and bought $3 million in chips and just didn't use them. So then there's $3 million sitting in the cashier's office on chips that are not going to be used for anything, and dad's not going to ask for his money back. So suddenly I have $3 million in cash to go pay my creditors. But that's money laundering. Yeah, but it was my dad. Well, okay, what if it's a bunch of Russian oligarchs or New Jersey mobsters instead? Oh, different. And apparently, according to Reuters here, that was something they did all the time, and in particular at the Trump Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. Eventually, just, I guess, in 2015, ended up settling U.S. government charges that it violated federal laws designed to thwart that kind of money laundering in casinos. A $10 million civil penalty paid by Trump Taj Mahal Associates, LLC. So it's on the record. The guy's a money launderer, period. He's confessed. But I didn't do it. Trump Taj Mahal did it. That's a different thing.
Yeah. So I just tweeted at you. I didn't open it, but fact check apparently from WAPO on the fact when Trump said he had nothing to do with Russia.
Yeah.
And they gave it 4 Pinocchios.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Well, there's not enough Pinocchios to deal with that. But, again, he stands there and says, I didn't. Well, okay. Did Trump Partnership Soho 1 do it? Trump Partnership Soho 2? Ivanka Soho 3 LLC, did they do it? Trump Old Post Office, Trump Soho, Trump Baja, Trump Fort Lauderdale, whatever. The Mar-a-Lago Incorporated. He keeps telling us how many hundreds of businesses he owns. Of course, they're all tranches of the same business over and over again. But, you know, those are the things you're going to have to look at. All the different filings that he made for shares owned by him, shares owned by Don Jr., shares owned by Ivanka, shares owned by Tiffany. Occasionally she got some shares. Shares owned by Melania, whatever. All of these things, the connections to Russia, to stand there and say there's nothing on some sampling of my tax returns that says the Kremlin, Moscow, you know, Russia, and the memo on the check, the memo line says dirty payoff money. That never says that on any of my checks. Oh, okay. Well, then you're in the clear. Of course not. It hasn't been done like that. The taxes aren't really necessarily the source of that kind of information. Why he's hiding them? Probably because he doesn't have as much money as he says he does, and he's constantly in debt, and it would look ridiculous for the successful businessman to have to answer for tax documents that say he's poorer than any of us. You know, if you count money in absolute terms. He owes $2 billion. Is he poor? Well, not him, somehow. He's got a gold toilet. But, you know, his net worth is negative, but that doesn't matter in America.
He was insolvent. There's no question. Yeah. Can I just sneak in, actually, the point I wanted to make an hour ago, which was...
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, I think he went through his tweet story, but I don't know if you focused on this one. He said... First, he lied about what James Clapper said, but this is the part that says, virtually everyone else with knowledge of the witch hunt being the Russia investigation, says there's no collusion. Clapper says there's no collusion. And everyone else with knowledge of the witch hunt says there's no collusion. When does it end? Okay, here's the
tomorrow.
Thing. And you remember my point yesterday about him and Sessions having a conflict in naming the new FBI director. It presumably ends when the new FBI director decides.
Yeah.
That it ends.
I'm tired of this.
Or the attorney in charge. Who's naming the new FBI director? The president.
Yeah, I guess.
And the attorney general.
Right.
This is a conflict unless the witch hunt is given to an independent special prosecutor. He cannot pick the next FBI director.
Yeah.
It has to be, unless there's a special prosecutor. The president said this morning, end this thing now.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to be the new FBI director? Come over for dinner and let's talk about it. I have some delicious chocolate cake for you.
Yep.
Let me ask you, are you going to end this witch hunt or not if I name you? No?
Right. There's a second scoop of ice cream in it for you if you do.
And the guy says, well, no. Well, nice meeting you. Goodbye.
Right.
Next guy comes into dinner and says, sure, whatever it takes so I can be the FBI director. Okay, we got a deal.
Yes. Well, he's smart in the sense that it's a Saturday Night Massacre in reverse, and you're not likely, unless somebody finally tapes the thing, to get in trouble for not hiring people based on the fact that they wouldn't agree to. I mean, you should, by all rights, get in trouble for it. But
you mean they don't put it on a check, dirty laundry money?
Yeah. So, it's one thing if you say, I'm going to fire everybody all the way down the chain of command until I find somebody who will end the investigation. That's very public. These people were here yesterday and now they're fired. That's something to latch onto. Whereas these people were not hired because they wouldn't say. How are you ever going to find out? I mean, if you manage to get a hold of taped conversations where that happens, great, that's good evidence. But just the fact that these people with integrity don't occupy these jobs, they're at least smart enough to, clear out the offices first and then hire based on where can I find somebody who will rid me of this meddlesome priest, or whatever. and hire from the outside rather than just firing everybody who won't do it. So it's structured better. That's good news.
Yeah. So the exceptions have been. I'm sorry to go back to I'm jumping back on stories on you, but the exceptions are Miss Universe and the sale of that mansion in Palm Beach. That's what the only Russian certified lawyer is saying.
Good. Well,
he's certified that he's a lawyer. Here's his license.
Did he include that? Can I have it?
Is he really a lawyer?
I would check. I mean, I'm not positive that there was a dinner with Comey. I guess now that they are confirming that they had it, it just didn't go the way.
Well, we can't see the White House log.
Yes,
so
I think that's one of the reasons. Is they know why would I provide these stupid, lying, failing press with ways to fact check that whether or not I had dinner with people that I need to say I had dinner with. Why would you lie about it? I don't know. Why would you lie about anything? And it may just be his paranoia. I said it was on January 23rd, but it turned out to be on January 24th. They're going to give me 4 Pinocchios. I'm just rather not provide the information.
This is what's going to happen with this stupid certified letter.
Yes.
Certified lawyer letter. It's going to turn out, they say, they've actually limited it to those things. And I know that through LLCs and through corporate shells,
yes,
Russians have bought many, many things from Trump and probably paid him license fees to use his name on many, many things. And it's going to blow up in his face. Even for what I think is fairly milquetoast press on this, and that's going to be exposed to be stupid. But Trump oversells.
Yeah.
Just as he always does. He steps in it, and that's frankly, we're lucky in that sense. He's evil, but he's not a genius. He's actually a buffoon.
Mm-hmm.
It makes life a little easier for those of us who have been banging our head against the wall saying, what are you talking about, media? He fires Comey, which was crazy. Now, unless, and I think Josh Marshall's right in this sense, unless you think he's a complete idiot, and that's just a real distinct possibility. Unless he's a real complete idiot, the firing of Comey was crazy.
Yeah.
Because no one now, for a number of reasons, the press loved Comey. He was Mr. Integrity and yada yada. He had all these contradictions. They put Rosenstein up to do it. The whole thing was a house of cards. They came up with these bad stories, and of course Trump was going to blow it all up the first time he opened his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's Colonel Jessup. He wants to tell everybody.
Yes, that came up yesterday too, right? Could you really? So shouldn't somebody eventually be able to get him to just give "You're goddamn right, I did it" to join? To end the
Well, it wasn't like he was pressed by Holt.
No,
Holt just sort of asked him a question.
Yeah, I mean, my characterization of the Trump interview is, will you please confess right now? Okay, sure.
He did.
Thank you, and I did a tremendous job of it too.
It's, if you work for him, what do you do? Suppose you're just as evil as him and you're in it just for the taxes. You're Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
And you just want to cut taxes on the rich.
Then you're stressed.
And you want to screw poor people and you say, I'm going to use this guy as a vehicle.
Then,
you're like, what the hell, man?
Right.
Just
you're
shut
upset.
up.
If you're just an idiot or you're just evil and you're like, I like screwing with people, well, go ride this as long as it can go and have a good time. Making fun of the press along the way. But if you have an agenda, you're like, God damn it, we're this close. But Mitch McConnell and Ryan insist that this will do nothing to impede the agenda, that they're going to bring these things forward anyway. They're going to move ahead with the tax idea. I don't even know why they even bother doing that. They still to this day haven't told us what the ranges are going to be for I'm going to have 3 tax brackets, but I'm not going to tell you who's in which one. That they still, for a week, they haven't been able to come up with that one.
Yeah, but look at the stupidity in this lawyer's letter. No income from any Russian sources except for the money I get from Russian sources. Why not just say, look, unless these are bad lawyers, they should know that that's just a stupid way of saying it. That's Trump insisting, say it's no income. But Mr. President, what about the Miss Universe money? What about this money? No, say I have no income.
Right.
Do what you have to do. And I said, there's no income. Well, except for these sources of income.
Right. He's probably curious about that too. Damn it. I told you. And then, so, I guess the next week will be about spinning away the Miss Universe thing, which not hard to do. And, what was the other one?
The big sale of the estate.
I told you all about that one. And maybe that's why those are the 10, included in the 10 years. I already told you about that one, and you knew about the Miss Universe. And
what was Donnie Jr. talking about then?
Yeah, I mean, that's right. Where's his taxes?
I mean, was he the one that was he cheating his dad? He wasn't sharing the wealth?
I guess so. Yeah, Dad knew nothing about Russia. Now those are the two of us running the country. One says, yeah, the vast majority of our partnerships are with Russians. And then the one running the golf course stuff says, yeah, we have $100 million, available to us anytime we want it. Anytime we need money, we go to Russia for it. Really? Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and his explanation for it. Granted, he's not going to confess what they're actually doing, and he may actually think this is true. Eric's not super smart, but he just basically told the guy, I mean, there's just a lot of rich guys in Russia it's weird. They love golf and casinos and really anything that we build, which is amazing. We just have our finger on the pulse of Russian society. No, that's not true. If you were opening, barber shops, they'd be, you know what? I have to tell you, Eric, I love barbers. Can't get enough investment in barber shops. Give me 30.
How about this for a trick on Trump though? Just sort of say, wait a second, you're doing all this crap for Russia for nothing? You actually didn't get anything out of this?
That's true. Bad deal.
You don't know how to make a good deal.
Right. Well, I'm not doing anything. You're receiving their foreign minister at the instructions of their president. That was nice.
You were going to eliminate NATO for them.
Right. For nothing. Who cares about a White House office visit? That's true. You're right. Eliminating NATO.
You didn't get any money at all, anything at all.
By the way, what do you think the
Did
Russians
they at least
make
comp
of
the Pea Party?
Yeah. I hope they picked up the tab for that one.
Yeah.
I think they probably did. It was on the hotel. Everything ended up on the hotel, didn't it? The bill for it, plus all the cleaning as well. I was wondering yesterday, so what do you think Russians think of the idea of, no, you're not going to build a new modern version of an aircraft carrier. You're going back to the 1950s model, goddammit. I insist on it. Putin, I don't know. It's a bad idea. I would advise you, Donald, maybe you want to modernize your fleet. No, of course not. Yes, absolutely. Big hole in ship. Tell them drill holes in ship. You're going to drill some goddamn holes in this boat. It floats better with holes. Everybody knows that. I learned it at Wharton. Okay. I can't imagine that that's, well received. And a good point by Matt Iglesias, again, believe it or not.
Okay, maybe. Let's
pointing
listen.
out today, did I put this one aside? I'm not sure. But basically the point of it was how weird it was that we now just sort of let it roll off our backs that high-ranking military commanders will essentially have learned to ignore the dictates of the commander-in-chief. You're going back to goddamn steam. Can't do that. Not going to do that. But basically, he comes out and screams a new military procurement policy, and that it's standard operating procedure for top brass in the Pentagon to say, don't listen to the president. We're doing what we're doing. We're ignoring his stupid. I order you to. You don't even know what an order means. No. So we're now at that stage, which I guess might be a relief to people who are like, what if he orders a nuclear strike? I think maybe that's an indication that unless there's some reason for the military brass to think that ought to happen, even if it's controversial. I mean, if it's just, so I guess it means that if he literally calls out of the blue one night and, had a nightmare and says, I need you to nuke Korea. I don't know. I have a feeling he's not going to nuke Korea. We're not doing it. Now, missiles are on the way. Listen, Mr. President. There we go. We did it. Sleep well. Thank you. I don't know. I just thought that was a good observation that, the upshot of the goddamn steam thing is the top military brass at the Pentagon, as a matter of routine, will be rolling their eyes at him and ignoring his dictates, unless, I guess, they get him to commit it to the right kind of paper.
God.
So, I don't know. We got to wrap up, of course.
I go into this weekend, I don't know why, strangely depressed.
Yeah, well, it's going to be kind of tough. I don't know where he's going to be golfing this weekend. It's rain up and down the East Coast, and he might be able to. I think the rain's coming from the south. He should go to Mar-a-Lago. I think he's done with Mar-a-Lago, but it's going to be raining here, and I think it's going to be raining in New Jersey. So I don't know. He's going to go crazy. I'm sure Jared and Ivanka have cleared out for the weekend as well. They've been gone. I haven't seen their name mentioned in the news in a week. But then again, somebody else pointing out that Trump himself has done no public events for 7 days. I mean, we know he's still alive. We see him on television every once in a while. I assume that's him, and not pre-taped. But so he's in bunker mode. That's not typically very good for presidents who are embattled.
Man, 100 days and he's in a bunker already. Yeah. Jesus. It took Hitler 12 years to get to the bunker.
That's right. And what a bunker. Have you seen it? It's beautiful.
It's the greatest bunker.
The Eagle's Nest, they call it. It's terrific. Oh, you mean the Berlin? Yeah, the Berlin apartment bunker. That one, they could use some work. But it was featured in a film. I just saw it. Have you seen Downfall? It's a documentary. It's terrific.
Did you notice that he put in a chandelier in the White House?
Did he? They have plenty.
Yeah, I saw him bragging about it in the Time interview.
With a disco.
See that chandelier? I'm sure it's horrendous. But
and my own disco dancers, and I'm taking this chair. All right. It's a depressing.
You put me in a
weekend.
better mood. Thank you.
Well, that's good. I'll tell you what. I don't know whether the after show is going to be depressing or uplifting, but I'm going to put my money on uplifting. But we do have to introduce what's coming up next for them. Thanks, Armando, for visiting.
You. Have a good weekend.
Appreciate it. You do the same. And all right, we'll get ready and wrap things up and hand things over to the guys on the after show. As predicted, I didn't get to my Texas story. John, I apologize. I do want to get that out there. He's got a great story about Democrats standing up in record numbers to run for office down in the Lone Star State, and we thank them for doing it. So it's a phenomenon happening all over the country, of course, but important to note, one, that it's happening in Texas. There's something symbolic about it happening in Texas. And two, to let you know who they are so you can check them out and see if you want to lend them your support in their race. We'll try and include that in our first day or two next week. Let's see. Oh, where's my music? Come on, soundboard. Here we go. It's so professional here. I love it. All right. I know there are some other things that I wanted to share with you, but it's just another one of those days. We'll share the rest of it, I'm sure, on Twitter. In the meantime, do stay tuned for the after show. Batting cleanup, as always. Here's what they have lined up for you today for Friday's program. California Senator Kamala Harris says Jeff Sessions must resign. And I agree. And she's being the most forceful about the Jeff Sessions portion of our problems here. The White House wants to appoint former Trump campaign official Mike Rogers as the lackey who will shut down the Russia investigation. A name at last emerges. And Trump signed an executive order that will appoint the GOP's anti-immigrant and vote-rigging consigliere Chris Kobach to head the commission that will prove that over 3 million fraudulent ballots were illegally cast for Hillary Clinton. Interesting story about that guy from Jason Kander is out there, I think. I'll share that one on Twitter with you, too. For the last half, it's Friday News Dump and Recycling Center. That's news that's been repurposed with a purpose, and here's what they've got for you there. The White House still denies Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak attended the Oval Office meeting alongside Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and Russian military cyber warriors targeted the 2008 Barack Obama campaign and U.S. government officials as far back as 2007. Amazing. It's been going on since then.
From Daily Kos Radio on networksradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
In fact, it says here, there's a little bit more on the story, that they've continued to attack them and to track them even after they've left their government jobs. These guys don't give up, at least not easily. Yes, it was Jason Kander who was describing his interaction with Chris Kobach on Twitter. I'll share that with you. And we'll be back on Monday to share even more if we're still alive. Good luck.